Good evening, everybody. Thanks again for attending tonight's forum, where we're going to hear from candidates for the mayor of Santa Ana. I am Norberto Santana Jr. I'm the publisher for Voice of OC, your nonprofit newsroom here in Orange County. I'll be tonight's moderator. The forum is brought to you tonight by the volunteers that work with Connect to Council. For more information about Connect to Council, go to connecttocouncil.org, and you can get all kinds of different information on it. Spanish translation is available tonight. If you want to have somebody in your family have Spanish translation, or you want to look into it, go to the links that are on the Connect to Council Facebook page, and you should be able to connect to it there. We'll advise all of the candidates, since we do have translation, to try to speak in succinct blocks so that the translator can do their job as well. Before we start, I want to invite Terry McCall to lead us all in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please cover your heart with your right hand. Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. So tonight we have our mayoral forum, and as I was saying before to the candidates, the first time in a decade, I think, that we've not had the incumbent mayor, Mayor Miguel Pulido, as a candidate. So it's a very interesting era that we're going into. We have a total of 6 candidates: Claudia Alvarez, George Collins, Cecilia Iglesias, Mark Lopez, Vicente Sarmiento, Jose Solorio. We're going to start with everybody giving us 2-minute and 30-second introductions. And we will start with Claudia.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Claudia Alvarez, President of the Board of Trustees of Rancho Santiago Community College District and candidate for Mayor of Santa Ana. Thank you to Connect to Council, Norberto, and of course, all of our viewers watching tonight interested in the future of our beautiful city, Santa Ana. Many of you know me, but for those of you that do not, I've been a resident of our city for over 40 years. I know I look 29, but I'm that old. I'm a proud homeowner in Washington Square, where I've resided for the last 21 years. I believe in our city and its people, and as such, I devoted my lifetime to public service. My leadership experience is not one-dimensional, and it extends far beyond the council. For one, I'm a senior prosecutor at the Orange County District Attorney's Office, where I fought crime on behalf of you, the people, for over 21 years. There, I have prosecuted gangsters, sex offenders, arsonists, drug dealers, and other violent criminals that victimize our community. I have also had the privilege and honor to serve you as your councilwoman for 12 years, from 2000 to 2012, 6 of those years as Mayor Pro Tem. One of the accomplishments I'm most proud of is the fact that as chair of the Public Safety Committee, Santa Ana was ranked the 4th safest city its size nationwide by Forbes magazine under my watch. I also, while on the council, was proud to represent our city on the Orange County Water District for 6 years, where I served as president for 2 of them. Last, but definitely not least, I have served as your college trustee for the last 8 years, overseeing Santa Ana College and Santiago Canyon College. During my tenure there, we have made our campuses safer for our students, faculty, and staff. I also have led our colleges as board president this year through the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic. Not only were we able to have thousands of our students graduate in May, but we're helping our students through the digital divide, financial challenges, and food insecurities. Also, we have safety plans in place for a safe return to the classroom when allowed by the CDC guidelines. I am that change Santa Ana is seeking and have the leadership experience necessary to lead Santa Ana through a healthy recovery. But Alvarez for mayor. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Claudia. George, can we hear from you?
Absolutely. Good evening. Thank you, everyone, for attending and the sponsors for doing this for us. My name's George Collins, and I'm candidate for mayor of Santa Ana, obviously. I've lived here 30 years. In those 30 years, about 25 of those years, I have struggled trying to get the city to do things like film the second council meeting, repair railroad tracks, get lights in. And I found the council that we've had, and that is there, is very difficult to get anything done. It seems to be a battle of why they can't do something versus why they should be doing something for us. So in all the years I've done stuff, it's been volunteer and it's been for the residents. I'd like to continue that as mayor. And as you can see by the presentation here, there's a certain quality that you want to portray Santa Ana in. Do we want to stay as we have been for the past 40 years, or do we want to move on to a tourist type city and bring business into Santa Ana? I propose moving to a tourist type city and supporting business to get people coming into Santa Ana. We've got a restaurant row that can be fixed up. We can make it look like Teotihuacan if we want, but something needs to be done instead of the stagnation we've had for 40 years. We need a change. The website, there's extended video and commentary on how I want to change the police department and the PIO. I interviewed both of them before they interviewed me. And what I'd like to do is change community-oriented policing to community-oriented assistance and get a assistance facility in each ward so the residents don't have to go downtown and struggle with that at the main police station. Community-oriented policing has failed. We're seeing that nationwide. I proposed an emergency response drone system be on top of the police department, which within seconds can be at any location. So you call in a suspicious character, before you can get off the phone, the PD will be able to see it and dispatch the correct people, whether it be a social worker, a police officer, fire department, public works. They will have eyes on scene. In doing this, we can save millions of dollars from the helicopter budget by doing this and bringing it all in-house. The original argument I expected to be $4 million. I was corrected by Ken Gaminsky that they could do it for $1.5 million with 6 officers. So we have an opportunity to move Santa Ana into the 21st century, both with marketing, which is a key thing we haven't done. The appearance of Santa Ana, we need to pick that up so people in Orange County will want to come here, want to spend their money here. My time is running out. George Collins for mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, George. Cecilia.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I am Cecilia Iglesias. I am candidate for mayor. Just wanted to say I'm very humbled to be here and thankful for this opportunity to join you in this forum. Thank you, Norberto and Connected Council for the opportunity of putting this together so our residents can hear from us. As I've stated in the past, I've lived in Santa Ana since 1979. I am a proud resident here in Windsor Village Neighborhood Association, the west side of Santa Ana. And I've been living here since 1990. And one of the things that really gets me motivated is to see how much our community cares about our city. And that's the reason why I'm running. As you all know, that opportunities here in Santa Ana have never been greater, because as you guys stated, it's 26 years in the making, and now we're going to have an opportunity to choose a new leader of the city for mayor. So I'm very humbled by the interest of individuals who had asked me to run. So what I would like to say is that, the risk of financial collapse and medical crisis here in Santa Ana is great. But as your next mayor, I can give Santa Ana a great future and protect it against bad outcomes. That's something that we must do together. We must definitely change the culture of corruption at City Hall. City council members beholden to the greedy police union boss, Jerry Serrano, must be held accountable. And those relationships have resulted in questionable and unethical decisions that have no place at City Hall. As a twice elected Santa Ana school board member and once elected councilwoman, I have the experience to make the changes necessary to begin a new chapter in Santa Ana. So as your next mayor, what I'm going to do is move Santa Ana forward. I'm going to focus on unity, protect taxpayers from new taxes and new bonds, reprioritize our budget to improve safety, quality of life for residents and for businesses, beautify neighborhoods and parks to benefit families, our youth and our seniors, and definitely protect Prop 13. I'll also hold other cities and County of Orange accountable for the homeless burden in our city. I'm going to work with all residents, schools, churches, nonprofits, and businesses to make Santa Ana vibrant again. I will fight against nuisance fees. Residents pay enough taxes already. The city bureaucrats must learn to live within their means. So for a positive change, vote Ceci Iglesias for mayor. If you guys have any questions, you can contact me at iglesiasformayor@gmail.com or at www.voteiglesias.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Cecilia. Mark, let's hear from you. Mark? Mark? Maybe we're having a problem. Let's go to Vicente and we'll come back to Mark. Vicente?
Yes, good evening. Thank you, Norberto. My name is Vicente Sarmiento. I want to thank everybody who helped put this together, Connect to Council, Voice of OC, and the public who's listening. I think, we're blessed to have such an engaged public, folks that are very interested in this historic election for many reasons. We know we have a historic election, for president. We have other elections, but there is nothing more important than local elections. And I just want to begin by saying thank you to the residents and the voters in Santa Ana who allowed me the privilege to represent you for the past 3 terms. As I come to the end of my third and last term, I want to say that it's been an honor to represent the city I grew up in. My family arrived here in 1965 when I was a year old. And so, I've been here my entire life. I attended John Muir Elementary, Sierra, and Willard. And, now my kids are growing up here. So it's been a passion, a dream realized to be able to represent the community that gave me so much. And, for me, I see that we're, again, at a moment of a new era opening up. And, when I started as a young council member in 2008, we had to deal with issues from the consequences of a global recession in 2008. We were able to make sure that the city did not fall into a Chapter 9 bankruptcy as many other communities did throughout the state. We made sure that we were good fiduciaries, that we made good decisions, and many lessons that were learned. We have a reserve policy now that will never put us in a place of peril again, because we have a 20% set aside from our general fund to make sure that we have a rainy day fund if something should happen. And now my council terms have been bookended by another historic moment, and this is the pandemic that we're all facing. And I want to speak to that just for a second, because my body of work is well known, but I think the next person to lead the city is going to be met with challenges and opportunities to be able to make sure that we remain healthy, not just figuratively, but literally, because we are probably one of the hardest hit communities in the entire county and the entire state. Our numbers are very elevated. So my focus will be to make sure that people are able to live in a safe environment, become safe themselves, for us to open up our commerce. But we have to remember that this public health crisis is going to be followed by an economic crisis. So we do need a steady hand. I think on this one, temperament matters. I think a reasonable person matters. And those are the qualities I think that I've always tried to bring to the city, which is somebody who is reasonable, somebody who's thoughtful. I'm presently the president of the Orange County Water District as well.
Time is up. Vicente, your time's up.
Great. Thank you.
Mark, are you back with us?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me now? I'm muted.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts.
Can I start the video on that, or just
You can do the video. You can absolutely turn on your video.
Okay. Well, this is Mark Lopez. This is my second time running for Santa Ana. Can you see the video, sir?
No.
Oh, let me see.
Hit the start video
second
button.
time. Oh, this is my second time running for mayor of Santa Ana. I ran back in 2014, and I'm running again because I see a lot of dynamic changes happen in Santa Ana, especially with the new rail starts happening in downtown 4th Street. I've been researching on my own independently. I see a lot of dynamics of that changing, and this could be a good thing for Santa Ana, a real dynamic change in Santa Ana. But unfortunately, there is some people who are going to be affected by it. But like I tell everybody else, business is business, and the residents need to be informed. And one of the major things I'm running for, I want to get out there real quick because I see some of the usual, I call them the usual suspects, so no offense to nobody. I just see some of the same players running over and over again. And that's been the problem before, where the council members they're on these different boards, like water district, school board, that board. And every time you go to meet, when do they have time for us? People didn't understand the mayor is a part-time position, so it's city council members. But a lot of these city council members are on these different boards, so you never see them. When do they have time for us? I want to propose that we should change this charter to a full-time mayor and full-time councilship. Because the city of Santa Ana is changing completely. We have all the infrastructure here, the federal courthouse, city courthouse, the football field. I think we need to go to full-time mayor and council because of the dynamics of the city. And it's just changing. We have too many people here now. We need to go to full-time position. We get have the citizens' full needs and mental wants by the council and mayor. Because before, I just don't see that happening. Like my street out here, I've been trying the last 10 years to get my street fixed. And stuff like that. We need to start making I like to say, yes, I'm proud of our citizens, but we also need to make them held more accountable. They need to be part of our system, not out of it. A lot of times the citizens do claim in the neighborhoods, but yet they're part of the problem. We need to involve them in all that tasks in the city of Santa Ana as well, not just certain decisions made by the council members. And also for the police department, I think we should have a robust police department. Yet I also feel that our citizens and our mayor or council members have the right to criticize them without any type of response for that. What I saw from this last issue, what happened this recall, I'll give it bluntly. I was disgusted and ashamed to be a citizen in my country with things really said and things really done with this. This was a waste of taxpayer money, and it was just a complete joke. But that's something that should never have happened, and it was a complete disgrace. All I'm saying, I want to run for Santa Ana because I think we need to bring some respectability back to the city. It could be a great place, and especially dynamic with the streetcar service. This has the possibility of changing Santa Ana completely. Where now people have to go to like West Hollywood or Sunset Boulevard or Costa Mesa. People come here, and I do see it out when I meet the people out there. I feel a lot of people ask where they're from. Majority of people talk to visiting 4th Street or out of town. So the potential is there, but yet, unfortunately, there will be people affected by that. That's just the way things are in business, but people have to be aware of that. I'm just sad the city's not making people well informed that there might be some shortcomings for individuals living there because the way things are. But in the turnaround, this could be one of the most dynamic things for Santa Ana. I'm real excited about that with the artist village and everything. I mean, even where I live, they could change the dynamics where I live. And I can say it, Mark Lopez from Bear.
Thank you, Mark. Jose.
Thank you.
Jose, can we hear from you?
Thank you, Norberto, and good evening, Santa Ana residents and Connected Council. My name is Jose Solorio. It's my honor to be here with you. I believe I have the experience, the resolve, and the right priorities to move Santa Ana forward in the right direction. I have a bachelor's degree from UC Irvine. I have a master's in public policy from Harvard. After Harvard, I came back to Santa Ana, and I've been here for about 25 years. Served on the city council 6 years, and then was promoted to the state assembly by the good people of Santa Ana, Anaheim, and Garden Grove. I came back and raising my two boys, they attended all Santa Ana public schools and did all their youth activities here in Santa Ana. Very proud of them. They went to Jefferson, MacArthur, McFadden, Godinez. Michael just graduated from Stanford, and Diego just started at Princeton, so I'm very proud of them. But I saw that after I left the council, The city stopped filling police officer positions, homelessness started to increase, and homicides were increasing, shootings were increasing, and with teenagers going to Godinez High School and Waukegan Valley High School every day, it got me to feel like I need to step up for our city. So on public safety, which is my highest priority, we've been moving in the right direction. 911 response times are down, homicides are down, violent crimes are down. We do need to keep working on homelessness, no doubt, but some progress there with the affordable housing and permanent supportive housing projects that we've been doing. We also have been doing a lot in terms of reducing officer-involved shootings. When I got to the council, one of the first things I did was push for a requirement that all officers wear body-worn cameras. And after we did that, we went from about having 9 to 12 officer-involved shootings per year down to about 2 or 3. And that was because of body-worn cameras. We got to keep working on staffing. I want to do a survey of all residents on their policing priorities. We got to do more to lead on homelessness and COVID. With my relationships in Sacramento and the county, we've been bringing more of those resources. I want to do more of that. COVID was mentioned. We need to keep expanding programs to help our families and seniors during these times of hardships. I also want to add paid internship programs and Wi-Fi programs with the youth fund that we have that I helped establish and lead via the cannabis program. And then our seniors, we have a lot of seniors, but we're not doing enough for them. And then finally, we need to treat all neighborhoods equally so that every neighborhood has the same resources and the same opportunities as even the ones that I represent here, north of 17. Thank you.
Well said, thank you. See here, Mark, can you do me a favor and mute your audio? You're coming through on the audio on your phone, I think. And there you go. I think you got it. Great job.
Audio, hold up.
Mute the audio.
Wait one, let me see if I find it.
There you go. And then just turn off your camera when you're off. Perfect. Thank you again, Jose. We're going to move on now to the first set of questions. And again, just as a general reminder, these will be 1 minute and 30-second time limits. And the first question is, let's see here. There's a big debate going around the country about defund the police. What to you does defund the police mean? And do you agree with that statement? And if so, why do you agree with that statement? If not, what measures would you take to improve public safety? Cecilia, let's start with you.
So, yeah, the question is, do I believe in defunding the police? No, I don't. I believe we need to keep our police department, because they provide the safety for us. I know there's a misconception out there that I don't care about our police officers, but that's just a lie. That's just what Greedy Jerry, the police union president, has been spreading, and he wants people to believe that. I believe in law and order, and I support law and order. I don't support, what's going on right now with the riots and looters and stuff like that. They need to be held accountable to the full extent of the law. What I do support is reforming the police union and also reforming the police department. There are some things that we can change at the police department. Like, we need our officers to be patrolling our streets. There's some things, some tasks that the officers have that that we can have civilians, individuals carrying out those duties and responsibilities. Like, for example, traffic violations. We shouldn't be having our police officers there. We could have somebody else taking the information. Also, we need to ensure that our community has a good relationship with our police department. Right now, I don't see that. I believe that there's a lot to be done when it comes to having the community have that relationship with our police department. So that's something that I would work with the chief, and something that I was working on with the chief when I was on council. So thank you.
Cecilia. George, what's your sense? And if you want me to, I can repeat the question. I think also I'm getting messages from people, if you can, to turn your cameras on. I think that during the meantime, it still gives the readers and your supporters something to be able to sort of look at and connect with you. So those of you that want to turn your cameras on, I think that's good. George, do you want me to repeat the question again real quick?
I think for everyone, that would be very nice. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem at all. And again, the question is, there's a big debate going on in the country about defund the police. To you, what does defund the police mean? And do you agree with that statement? If you do agree with that statement, why? And if you don't agree with that statement, what measures would you take to improve public safety in Santa Ana? And I'll start.
Before I got some echo here. I'm sorry. Before I interviewed with the POA, I interviewed them. I also interviewed the chief and deputy chief Gominski because I found a better way to do policing for first response. I don't believe in defund the police, but I do believe that we have an issue with both fear on the side of the police and fear on the side of the residents that we have to overcome. And that way the first response has to be handled in a different way in what we respond with. And as I proposed them in saving money on the helicopter and all the disturbances at night, to use these new high-tech drones that can be dispersed from the PD during the phone call and go out to the site, and then they can actually see what's going on and see what assets are needed. Maybe it's somebody from Public Works, maybe it's somebody from Social Services, and then correlate a response that way. So no, I don't believe in defunding the police. I believe in changing their assets to 21st century assets instead of staying with the old stuff. The old stuff is just going to get us in trouble, and we're going to have continued problems. But if we can move to, and I will say I got a great response from the POA and from the PD on the ideas and the affordability of it and the money savings. So if we can use some 21st century technology, save some money, we don't have to defund anything. We don't have to lay off anyone. So it's something that can be done, and it's a workable thing. Other cities are doing it. We just have to move into the 21st century and bring our police department along with us. Go from there.
Thank you, George. Appreciate your insights. Vicente, would you like to give us your take again? And the question is, it's on defund the police. What does that statement mean to you? Do you agree with it? If so, why? And if not, what measures would you take to improve public safety?
So thank you, Norberto. And I think, we use terminology sometimes a little loosely. And for me, defund doesn't mean to abolish or to dismantle. I do think we need to reimagine and we need to re-examine it. There's intelligent, better ways, I think, to police and do public safety and law enforcement. And we saw many people throughout the country and here in our community marching in the hundreds to make sure that we do exactly that. And I think what we can do is invest in sensitivity training, invest in de-escalation training, try to reduce the amount of non-police core function work that our officers do to better serve the residents in dangerous conditions, when weapons are involved, when there's a life-threatening situation involved, but to have them respond to maybe mental capacity issues where you have folks that have some problems, whether they're unsheltered, whether they're people with psychological impairments, those should be handled by civilian professionals. And that will free up our officers to really handle some of the more dangerous conditions throughout our community. Because one of the things I've consistently heard is that our response times are just very long. People call and sometimes are waiting an hour, 2 hours for something that's important to them and is an important function. One of the things I think we really need is a police oversight commission. We fund commissions for parks and recs, arts and culture, historic resources, and we spend over 60% of our unrestricted general fund on public safety. I believe the residents should have a role in that. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicente. Claudia, can you give us your take?
Absolutely. As a deputy district attorney, as you know, I live, breathe, and sleep public safety. I've been doing it for 21 years. My bachelor's degree is in criminal justice, and I have lived it through my experience in holding public office. I am not for defunding the police. For me, that means taking away the resources. I have nothing but full heart respect for the men and women that serve Santa Ana PD to protect us every day. Who do you think shows up to your door when a crime is happening in your home, when someone breaks into your car, or when something's going down on the street? It's our police department. So to that extent, I would not be supportive of defunding the police. But I do think we need to make some changes. I don't think they're perfect. Nobody is. I've yet to meet that perfect person. But I will tell you, I'm the only one on the ballot statement that the voters are going to get to see that actually addresses the issue. I talk about bringing a public safety plan together where we call the stakeholders to the table, including the police department, because we do need to address that change. Let's talk about de-escalation. Let's talk about proportionate use of force. Let's talk about, other resources that they could use to do their job better. Recently, at the college district, we recognized different officers because of 9/11, of course, and our firefighters. And we recognized the city of Anaheim because they had this great team called PERT, which is a combination of their police officers with mental health experts that actually show up to de-escalate. They've had it since 2018. Santa Ana is behind the game. Let's get that issue resolved. I'm hearing what our protesters are saying. I am not for their looting or their thieving, but I am supportive of making some changes.
Thank you, Claudia. Let's go to Jose. Have you already spoken on this issue?
I have not. Thank
Yes.
you, Norberto.
Thank you.
I believe you can be both pro-police and pro-reform, and that's how I've led. On the pro-reform side, I mentioned that when I got to the council, I insisted that we have all our officers wear body-worn cameras, and that's helped tremendously in reducing officer-involved shootings. I'm very proud of that. Also, we had issues filling our park ranger positions, so we instead created a public-private partnership where we now have a park security patrol program for the entire city. I'm proud of that. Moving forward, we, I think, need to do citywide surveys to hear directly from residents on what their policing priorities are rather than just what the political folks in town may think. Do they want focus on homelessness, on drugs, on violent crimes? We need to hear from them. And then we also can do other things like the Office of Internal Affairs. I believe that should be moved from the police department to, for example, the city attorney's office or in the city manager's office. There's a lot of reforms that we could do. Also, we were the only city council that under my leadership, we were able to move programs from the police department into the planning and building agency, for example, with our animal control services, and to public works, we moved the crosswalk program. Those are real reforms. A lot of folks talk about realigning, talk about making our city smarter and safer. And I've been part of solutions that have actually moved the ball forward. And now we have a fully staffed police department. We haven't had that in a long time. And that's what's bringing 911 response times down. And I'm really proud of that. And again, we need to continue to be pro-public safety and pro-reform.
Your limit. Thank you. Mark, can you tell us your perspectives? Do you want me to repeat the question again?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
No, I heard the question. I think that defund the police was based on knee-jerk reaction, based on emotional thinking. I know analytical thinking. You're never going to defund the police. You always need some type of protective service. And also, too, I've been talking to the rank and file police officers off the record on the streets. And a lot of guys tell me bluntly, and their assessment is a lot of the problems we have right now is based on decisions made by past and former council members while they're having problems doing their jobs. And a lot of guys like to see more direct leadership where they can go out and do the jobs, not make decisions based on political correctness or kind of self-serve one demographic or another. I propose more like a coin method where we get the police involved with all these social workers and develop more like a clear, hold, build relationship with some of these neighborhoods that are bad. Say we pick one neighborhood and work in that neighborhood. Get the police to be more kinetic. Go old school. Go dismount. Walk the patrols. Get to know your people. Have the language. Have guys train the language. Have guys train in culture. Like maybe involved in with social people. I would call them a culture engagement team. We have 2 police officers and a culture engagement advisor going out to work with the populace, see what the problem is. Instead of playing the populace for the all poor them, poor pity them, get them more involved. Those days are over, and we're talking about what demographics being harassed. We're all part of Santa, one team Santa Ana. Let's get the people more involved instead of him playing the crying game all the time where the police officers are afraid to go out there and ask them. We need to be more, especially with this whole downtown Santa Ana, we're going to need a robust police force so people will come here. I think we just need to bring leadership to direct these people. They take the marching orders from the city council and mayor. And like I said, directly, what they told me off the record, a lot of the problems are from past and current council members who have made poor decisions on their behalf. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate your insights. We'll go to the next question here, the second question of the debate, which looks at the influence of special interests on the city council. There, in the last recent elections, there seems to be a growing mistrust and concern from residents about the influence of special interests on the city council due to incidents such as of the PBID, the business district, the firing of the city managers and the chief of police, and recently the 2525 North Main. Do you think that these concerns are legitimate? And what would you do as mayor to improve trust and transparency on the city council? Jose, let's start with you.
Sure. Thank you. There's always going to be special interest. It's either the special interest of city groups, it's the interest of individual businesses, the chamber, PTAs, parents, commissioners, staff. Our important role on the city council is balancing out those interests so that good things and good government move forward in Santa Ana. And that's one of the things I think we need to do is add a little bit more transparency and process to how things happen at City Hall. I think I might have been the sole or one of a couple of dissenting votes when the city council majority voted to do away with all our city council committees, public safety, neighborhood improvement, and other things. That was a terrible idea. It shut out more residents outside of City Hall. We need to do more of that. I also want to move City Hall closer to the people and having council meetings at community facilities closer to neighborhoods throughout the city. So there's a lot that could be done, but the important thing is transparency, respect for others. Also, I've noticed a lot of people don't feel comfortable coming into City Hall or calling anymore. We need to change that. Everybody is important in Santa Ana, and we've got to have a place physically for them and mentally for them, and committees and opportunities to weigh in. And that's my commitment to represent all Santa Ana. I want to be a mayor for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. Cecilia, can you speak to the issue, again, of the growing mistrust and concern from residents about the rise of special interests on the city council? And again, what do you think those concerns are legitimate? And what would you do to improve trust and transparency on the city council?
Thank you, Norberto. Yes, there is a lot of special interest that dictates what happens at City Hall. For one is all the labor groups that are within our city. Definitely the police union, they have a stronghold on our city council. They have a stronghold on the on what's happening at City Hall. And that's something that needs to stop, because how is it fair that, these are public employees, and with our money, what they're doing is paying politics. They're playing into the political action committees that support these candidates when they come before the voters during election time. So that needs to stop. That's the biggest special interest that I've seen in my years in office, which is the public employee unions. They're the ones that really control what happens. The others that really that happens to is the political parties. They also they get in the way, and what happens is they play a lot of independent expenditure. So there's a lot of special interest that happens that a lot of people don't know. So when you guys receive these mailers in your homes, look at who's sending them to you. Look at, is it the Orange County Labor Federation for the Democrat Party? Is it the Orange County Fire Authority? Is it the Santa Ana Police Department? Which I think right now the Santa Ana Police, that's the Santa Ana, not the Santa Ana Police Department, but the Santa Ana Police Union. It's a kiss of death if you get their endorsement. So they're the biggest ones. So I would say be careful when you guys read the information when it comes in your mail. Thank you.
Thank you, Cecilia. Appreciate your insights. Mark, can you give us your sense again about the influence of special interests on the city council? Do you feel that people are legitimate in their mistrust of that situation? And what would you do to improve trust and transparency on the city council?
Well, they're there every day, whether it's financial or spiritual. I mean, I think financial interest will always be there, but at our level, we need to reduce that a lot. I think there's a lot of groups here. I think they should benefit first, Santa Ana first, and then we should look at what type of compensations they should get. I see a lot of these outside interest group coming to Santa Ana. That's the only thing I don't like too much, where they have more control of what we say. I think first we should look in-house what type of business that can help Santa Ana. I think they should be compensated fairly, like any other business. But I see right now that's a bit out of control right now, especially what I see with the last police recall election. Like I said, we need to stop that, because I see that every day in the mailers. My special interest is the citizens of Santa Ana. That's the interest I want. But like I said, I always use the phrase, business is business, but we should start in-house looking for the talent we have here in Santa Ana, promote our business in Santa Ana. And first of all, it should be, how can it benefit Santa Ana? And like I said, like every business, sir, you want to make some money. It's like anything else for a capitalist society. Compensate them fairly. A lot of things I see what people were paying all these other groups from outside, all these enormous amounts of sums. I think that's a bit out of hand right now in Santa Ana. We need to look in the house and have more ethical and more integrity who we pick these people to have their interests here in Santa Ana. But first and foremost, they should be for Santa Ana, and how they should be compensated fairly. whether business or spiritually. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mark. Here, George, can you give us your insights on, again, the question is on the resident concern about the rise of special interest influence on the city council. Do you think those types of concerns are legitimate? And what would you do as mayor to improve trust and transparency in the city council?
Actually, I would like very much to speak to that, and I apologize if my typing is backwards. We tested it earlier and it was correct. It's collinsformayor.org. I'm being told it's incorrect. Yes, and what I did in the past for this is I went and filmed the study sessions where money was being given away. I filmed the second council meeting where money was being given away and wasn't being filmed. I think openness is very important. It's not so much that special interest are the issue. There's always going to be a special interest. It's whether they are funding the candidates and whether the candidates take money from them and they're able to influence the candidate or the mayor's position on an item. That's the problem. If special interest, we're always going to have something from NGOs coming in wanting to do something. You have to work with people. You have to do it in the public eye. You have to do it on camera so everybody can see how your decisions are made. Some people will like how your decisions are made. Some people will dislike how your decisions are made. But if they can see it and you can justify it, then it can be understood. Years ago, we had a council member trying to put the televisions in City Hall for $1.3 million. By the time we were done with it, it was $300,000. It's things like that that we fought against for the last 25 years, and it hasn't changed. The only way that's going to change is with a change of concept at the very top. We don't need to be that way. So if we can change at the very top, get some fresh blood in there, and get these people that already have a cumulative 50 years on the council or an assembly, move away from that and start a new direction. Yeah, I heard it. Thank you. We can change the city council. Thank you.
Thank you, George.
Excuse me, Norbert, were you able to hear my last response?
Yeah, you were on.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Thanks, sir.
Vicente, can you give us your take again on people's concerns about the rise of special interest on the city council? Do you think that's legitimate? And what would you do as mayor to improve trust and transparency on the city council?
You know, Norberto, thank you for that question. You know, while I was on the city council, we adopted something called the Sunshine Ordinance, which was, really adopted to make sure that there were better disclosure policies, better transparency, and more open government and trust, right? So we would have to share our calendars, explain who we were meeting with, and basically just document everything that we were receiving. And I think that went a long way. I think to make things better, we may have to look at campaign finance reform as well. Because in 2016 is when we saw a lot more money coming into city council races, and those who came in during that time did, receive a lot of money from the Police Officers Association. And in the past, they hadn't played all that much. They hadn't really gotten involved. So I made a decision not to receive any endorsement or seek the endorsement from the Police Officers Association. I want to be autonomous and independent and make sure that I'm able to make decisions that are unfettered and unbiased. I think that it's important to have that objectivity when it comes to questions. The issues that I, champion, there isn't a lot of money in. I'm trying to, reduce homelessness. I'm trying to help immigrants, both documented and undocumented. I'm trying to improve the housing condition for folks and fight for more affordable housing. So those are nonprofit areas. Those are issues that really involve and benefit the residents of our town. It doesn't benefit any big private sector folks. I think what we want to do is make sure that we have that, ability to be objective again and neutral, because, it is important for our government and our democracy to do that. Thank you.
Thank you again, Vicente. Claudia, can you offer us your insights again on the rise in concern of residents about special interests on the council, and what would you do as a mayor to increase trust and transparency on the city council?
Thank you, Norberto. Absolutely. I think the residents' concern is legitimate, especially historically for the last 8 years. We have seen a rise in people playing, but it's not just the POA to just say, I'm going to step away from the POA. It's other interests that are out there. There's developers that are, in a sense, being held hostage. I ask you to follow the money and follow the votes, because some of them are even being, told, well, if you give me this money, then, it might go your way, or I'm not going to vote for this. I'm going to continue it unless you contribute to this particular committee. I think the concern should really be who is it that is getting elected, because if you choose someone that will follow the law, I will give you the example. There's a briber and a bribee. And the person that tries to give you the bribe is committing a crime, and the person that takes that bribe is also committing the crime. So to the extent that we're only pushing special interest away, I think you need to look at the candidate and see what type of conduct they're engaging in. Follow the money. There's also that, it's not just the dark money. Follow the committees. Go to the SANANA website, city website, and follow the committees. We have one of our candidates playing chess with the money, using ballot measure money that's not supposed to be used for candidacies or against your opponent to fund their mayoral campaign. It's borderline illegal. Or a recall committee of a recall that never happened, and they're using that money to pay for their mayoral campaign. Follow the money, follow the conduct, because it's not just as simple as the special interest. It's what it is that you do once you get elected.
Thank you, Claudia. I'm going to move on to the next question, which has to do with homelessness. Homelessness obviously has been a problem in Santa Ana and the remainder of the broader Orange County for a decade at least. Could you outline your long-term vision for addressing homelessness in Santa Ana, including not only what we need to do as a city, but what the region needs to do as a whole? And I'll start with Cecilia.
I like starting first, but I thought you were going to rotate us. This is like my second time starting, but it's okay. So for homelessness, what I think we need to do, we need to hold other cities accountable. That's something that I've said and I've always advocated for. That we also need to also hold the County of Orange accountable. As you know, Norberto, we spent over $25 million as our city general fund to address the homeless issue here in Santa Ana on individuals that are not even part of our community. These are people that are being bussed in by other cities. These are people who, once they get released from jail, they're automatically into our streets. So why are we paying for that? So when I was on council, that was something that I pushed for. And also, I'll tell you, I am the only candidate here that have shown up to the Board of Supervisors meeting, demanding that they, pay their fair share into the homeless burden that we've been paying for. And it's not fair for our kids and for our families. So the thing that I would do is definitely hold the Orange County, the County of Orange accountable so they can give us that money. Who's paying for safety? One thing that I remember asking at the Board of Supervisors meeting was, for them is like, isn't it our families, aren't they as valuable, aren't they as important as others, as families in other cities? We should be there front and center. And unfortunately, my opponents, they haven't been there. And it's something that I've done. I've reported on it, and it's something that I'll continue to do is fight for Santa Ana quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you, Cecilia. Vicente, can you give us your sense on that? Again, homelessness in Santa Ana, what do you need to do as a city? What do you need to do as a region?
Well, for the city, we need to make sure that we are able to take care of our folks who are homeless, because we do have some indigenous folks and folks from Santa Ana. What we can't do is absorb the entire region's problem. And I do agree with the previous speaker. I know that I've been very aggressive and vocal about holding the county responsible and holding other cities responsible. To the extent that Santa Ana has been very compassionate, stepped forward and done its share to address the problem, we can't let the other 33 cities and the county allow us to shoulder that burden. I think we've done it to the detriment of our kids, to the detriment of our families. It makes it very difficult that, we have to have our kids go to school, walk over homeless people. And again, I know it's a complex problem. I'm compassionate about it. We need to, we're going to be having a permanent homeless shelter for our homeless, but that is so we can comply with a Ninth Circuit case called Jones that requires us to be able to, as long as we shelter folks and have beds, we can enforce our anti-camping ordinance. So those are things that are going to allow us to enforce the law. What we can't do is just, sit back and roll over and let other cities bring their homeless here, leave them here under the guise of bringing them to receive services. Again, the county has millions, just millions and millions of dollars that they receive from HUD that they don't expend on services that they should be expending in cities. Ours is the most impacted. And I know when Judge Carter was looking at this, he found that there was money that was being hoarded by the county, both for mentally ill and for homeless shelters as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicente. George, can you give us your perspective? Again, homelessness, what should be done in the region and what has to be done in the
Okay, I
city.
can't tell if it went dead or not. Are we still up?
Yes, George, I can hear you. George, you there? George? He may be having some technical problems, so let's move on. Mark, can you give us your perspective?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I think the homeless problem, it's got to a point where this is serious, a crisis in our community. We need to put those surgical gloves on, get the mask out there, and finally do it. And with these homeless shelters, I think they're an ethical and they're just a travesty, because I have to work with one. I won't say the name, but these homeless shelters, all they do is bring them off the streets and still enable them. They still continue to do their drugs, still continue to do their drinking, still continue their bad habits, and they're absolutely worthless, in my opinion. I tried to get into one here in Santa Ana. They won't let me in because I can smell the feces, the urine smell out there. They're a complete joke. Unless we're going to get serious about it. And I'm worried about this homeless shelter we have in Santa Ana. They're going to abide by the same lax rules where they still allow these people to drink, smoke pots, smoke meth, smoke heroin, get high, prostitute out there. Are they allowed to say things to happen? What I see the travesty is this: they should be helping these individuals fix their problems, direct them to the right social services, where it's mental health, drugs, housing. And what I'm seeing is not happening. We need to do it now. Stop talking about it. I talk to you about this in my own experience. I'm on boots on the ground walking these places. I work with these places every day. You go to these meetings, these people are clueless. They live in the gated communities outside the world of what's happening on the ground. And what I see on the ground is disgusting. I invite any council member here, running or past the president, come walk with me in the streets. Come walk with me at 12 a.m. in the morning and see what it's really like there. And I talk to you, hey, look, if you're afraid, I'll provide security for you. I can handle out there. If you want to see the reality of what's happened, spend time on the streets actually in Santa Ana instead of talking about some meeting where you have no idea what the hell's going on out there. I think it's a joke. We need to get it done now, get it done right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. George, do you want to speak to that issue on homelessness? What can be done in the city and in a region?
Absolutely. Am I making it this time?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, very good. Thank you. It just dropped out. It's dropped out a couple of times. Yes, but the homeless is a little bit more complex than what's being talked about here. The reason everybody dumps them in Santa Ana, and pardon the terms, but that's what it has been, is because Santa Ana is a city that's based on getting income from the federal government by the census count. And I've been here through 3 census counts, and each time, about 3 years before the census, all of a sudden we have an overwhelming number of homeless and transient people. And a year or two after the census, all of a sudden it seems to fade away. We need to change Santa Ana from a census-based city and begging the federal government for money to a business-based city, a tourist city. Bring people into 4th Street, bring people into the Cube, bring people into the Bowers. Marketing. As we start getting more money, we won't have to beg the federal government for money, and we won't have to be a census-based city. It seems like we welcome people. We got a big heart, and that's outstanding. But at the same time, your big heart can start putting a drain on your city. And as we have now with middle class flight, people start leaving and your tax base vanishes for good. You don't want that. So I think we have to, over the next years, change the concept of Santa Ana to business, get it away from welcoming. People say we want to make the other cities responsible. How are you going to make the other city responsible? They're sitting back going, thank you for taking them from us. And we're gladly doing it. So it isn't something where we can force Lake Forest to, you're going to take 53 homeless. That's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. But what we can do is make it where it's more business welcome than homeless welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Claudia, can you give us your perspective?
Yes, thank you, Norberto. I keep looking down because I'm writing notes. I'm a note writer. But regarding the homeless issue, I will tell you, I sit on the arraignment calendar, and as it relates to the regional problem, sitting on the arraignment calendar, we get to see every day who's in custody, and we get to see a lot of our homeless population getting arrested. Unfortunately, it's a revolving door because all that happens is they get a slap in the hand and they get released, and then we see them again the next week. A lot of them have drug addiction problems. We need to address that. And a lot of them, sadly, have mental health issues. And instead of them getting the services they should be getting, they're actually released onto our streets again. Unfortunately, a lot of them are actually getting very violent, and they're confronting our residents, and they're breaking into their yards, or actually trying door knobs and trying to break into their homes, they're breaking into their cars. So it's gotten to a level that it's very concerning, and we need to do something about it countywide. We need to demand that money from the county, and we need to hold other cities responsible. As far as the city of Santa Ana is concerned, with our fair share in housing the homeless. I am not in support of the jail homeless shelter that they're planning. And I think we need to hold the cities accountable, and the homeless that we do have responsibility for, I think we need to come up with the wraparound services that will actually be paid for by the county monies that belong to this city to address that very issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. Jose, can you give us your perspective on, again, homelessness, what has to be done at the region, what has to be done at the city?
Yes, thank you. Homelessness has been one of the biggest challenges that we've been facing in our city, but we have been making some progress. When I got to the city council, we literally had a free exchange of needles for drug use, pretty much operating outside of City Hall, literally right between City Hall and the library. It was a disaster. It took us several months to undo that agreement, but I'm proud that that piece of history is behind us. We also had literally over 200 tents in our civic center. The plaza, the flags that the prior councils had allowed, and because we weren't staffing up and we weren't taking care of this issue, they started to go into all the parks, and that's why we had to create the Park Security Patrol that I mentioned. I believe in a tough love approach to homelessness. I think we ought to continue offering services, drug treatment, mental health treatment, shelter services for those that want it. But for others, if they don't want it, we don't want them on our streets. That includes also being tough with the railroads. I said, let's go after the railroads, and we started doing nuisance abatement lawsuits and other procedures, and we've made some traction there and getting ready to step it a notch up through the courts. We also need to do what we've done with COVID that I advocated for, which is to tell Sacramento and the feds to not send money to the county, to send money directly to the larger cities, because we could manage that dollar better. And then finally, we need to continue working on permanent supportive housing and making sure that no veterans are homeless. We have a veterans village in Santa Ana. I'm proud of it. We shouldn't have any veterans on our streets. Thank you.
Your time's up. Thank you. Thank you, Jose. Here, next question is on housing. Santa Ana continues to face a number of housing challenges. With COVID-19, the pandemic in Santa Ana has been accelerated by overcrowded housing and high density, amongst other factors. What do you see as Santa Ana's leading housing problem, and how would you address that? And this time we'll start with Claudia.
Thank you, Norberto. Yes, definitely. The COVID-19 pandemic has actually showcased how people with lower incomes are actually impacted, if you will, at a greater level. It has showcased the fact that we have people that cannot afford to live in bigger places, that cannot afford to get sick, because like COVID-19 has shown us, if they do get sick, they don't have a place to actually quarantine. They don't have a place to stay healthy, and they don't have a place to keep their family members healthy. I think I am supportive of affordable housing. I am not supportive of rent control. We need to address it, and I think several different ways this could actually be addressed. I think we need to, and we're talking COVID-19, we need to make sure that people get re-employed. Part of the reason why we have the problem that we have regarding overcrowding is because people don't have good paying jobs. I think or they don't have a job, period, given the pandemic. I think we need to retrain the unemployed and retrain the underemployed, because once you start bringing more income to those families, hopefully they're able to afford better places. I know that people talk about rent control. Why don't we help these families actually become homeowners? And to the extent that we can, I think we need to support the additional housing units that we now are allowed to build in the single family homes in their backyards. And I'm not talking about add another 8 people to your household and have a parking problem in your neighborhood, but the granny loves. I think that's actually one way to address it. But these apartment complexes, the one that was proposed at 2525 with, how many units and how many more cars and how many more people, I don't think that's the answer.
Thank you, Claudia. Jose, what's your perspective, again, on given the COVID-19 issue that's happening, its focus on overcrowded housing, what do you see as Santa Ana's leading housing problem, and how would you address it?
Sure. Two things. First, on affordable housing, I think Santa Ana has been leading the way. I know since I've been on the city council, I've supported every housing development project, because a lot of this is supply and demand. So we've approved for at market rate housing, affordable housing, in many areas, First Street, for example, or even, north of 17th Street, here right next to the 5 freeway and 17th, we're converting a blighted motel into permanent supportive housing for those with financial hardships. That was one of the first things that I had to do early on to say that was the right thing we need to do, and they shouldn't just be in low-income neighborhoods. I believe all neighborhoods need to do their share. I was also really proud of the Veterans Village that we built for homeless veterans. Now we need to get other cities to step up because we've done enough. Now I think we need to turn to rental assistance to help during this COVID time. Last year, I helped set up the first countywide hardship program for rental assistance. So when COVID happened, we were the first city to be able to grow that big. And now that pot is about $10 million in rental assistance for low-income families and families with hardship. So I'm very, very proud of that. We also need to look at not new affordable housing when anybody across the country may get the winning lottery ticket, but improving substandard rental housing we already have for current Santa Ana residents. We need to have our residents benefit from these rental programs, not just out-of-towners.
Thank you, Jose. Vicente, can you give us your sense on what do you see as Santa Ana's leading housing problem and how would you address it?
Yeah, thanks, Norberto. And, I was one of the authors of the Housing Opportunity Ordinance, which is the Affordable Housing Ordinance. And it basically was a way to allow for market rate housing to fund some concurrent and parallel affordable housing. Because, one of the things that we are glossing over is that our community, 80% of our residents earn less than $53,000 a year. We're the fourth most densely populated cities. We have units where you have 2 and 3 families living to a unit. That means, kids having to study in closets, living in very, very poor conditions that lead to not just secondary impacts with respect to health, but you also have parking problems. You have different, issues that grow out of that bad environment. What I've seen recently is that, our residents have been basically sold out. And I know that there was an effort to reduce the set aside for affordable housing. One of my opponents here who's on the council with me voted to gut that. And, that goes contrary to what we're supposed to be doing, which is watching out for our residents. Many of them stood hours and waiting on the line just to have that issue come before us because it really is a life and death issue for them. They need a place to live. They need a safe place and affordable. And unfortunately, we are now not listening to them and coming up with different excuses and different reasons why it's not important. I feel that we have to be responsive to the needs of our residents. Our demography shows that we have some very, very low income residents. They're at the lowest average median income, not only in the county, but in the state. And we're here to provide those vital services to them, and we shouldn't ignore them.
Thank you, Vicente. I appreciate your insights. Mark, can you give us your take on, again?
We good to go for hearing?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm going to give a blood assessment. People don't like to hear this, but I've taken time to research on my own, done some of my own white papers to realize some of the problems we have. And I 100% pure blame on the leadership and the city council, especially the mayor. I mean, I'm all for immigration, illegal immigration. But we need to declare Santa Ana a sanctuary city. It just invites more people to come in, which I understand if you want to escape the plights in. But the bottom line, we can't afford to everybody. We have a certain amount of money for our citizens here. We just can't afford to feed the world. I hate to use that term, but we have to take care of ourselves first. And why these neighborhoods continue to be high-dense areas with no parking, 5 or 6 people in one bedroom apartment? That's because you allow the sanctuary city people come in where I live at. I have the same problem here by Roosevelt School, this one neighborhood. For years and years, the school talks about that neighborhood. So I started researching myself, realized a lot of them are immigrants. I won't say what number are illegal or legal, but the problem is you have a continuous cycle over and over and over. I'm for to get rid of sanctuary cities. That way it allows these current immigrants to have a chance to take advantage of the services we have to offer. Because if you have a new group coming in, they lose the money and goes to the other group. We need to have it stop the cycle of every year the same bad neighborhoods. Every year where I live, it's the same thing. High crime areas, high dense areas, bad schooling. And the problem is you have to stop pandering to these demographics. We're all part of Santa Ana. Let's incorporate them instead of keeping them outside the cycle the cycle, be part of our population. And yes, we have good, people can't afford housing here in Santa Ana, but do you want to live in a high density crime area? No, you don't. You want to fix those areas up. And unfortunately, yes, it is because of sanctuary city. And I'll start this off with the bottom line. I heard the most asinine thing from Mayor Polito himself about the homeless problem. Oh, he said we could bring in more people, no problem.
Mark,
That shows you how to touch this idiot was about that. And I will call him idiot for saying that.
Mark,
Because to say that is the most idiotic thing I've ever heard say for admitting a leadership position. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Cecilia, can you give us your perspective on, again, how would you address the housing issues that are, what's the leading housing issue in Santa Ana that you would address?
Well, you know what's the leading cause of the housing issue and unaffordability in our community, Norberto, is the taxes. We have the highest taxes in the city and also in the county. We are so bombarded. We are so bombarded with bonds that most of my opponents here have supported in the past. And bonds are adding to the property taxes, which in turn turns into higher rent increase on our community. A lot of times the community doesn't understand that once we vote for bonds, we vote for higher taxes, it's unaffordable to live here in our city. That's what's really causing the housing crisis here in Santa Ana. And also, we do have a lot of affordable housing. That, like was said before, affordable housing is not only just for Santa Ana residents, because under the law, any city that has affordable housing, anyone from outside can come in and apply for those units. So we're not serving just our community. We're inviting others to come here and reside in our city. But definitely the biggest thing that is hurting us as a community for unaffordable housing is the taxes. As you know, we pay 9.25% in sales taxes, the highest in the county. And it's a regressive tax. It hurts the people that they can't afford to shop somewhere else. The bonds, we have so many bonds. We have the bonds for the school district. We have the bond for the rancho. So a lot of the times, those are the things that are driving our taxes and also our property rents up. So I'll say get rid of those taxes.
Thank you, Cecilia. Appreciate your insights. George, can you offer us your take on housing? What do you think is the leading housing problem in Santa Ana, and how would you address it?
Am I coming through okay?
Yeah, you sound great.
Okay, very good. On my website, I have something outlined called human environmental justice. Right now, the state has required that all the cities do something called environmental justice, and they kind of leave the human factor out. One of the problems we have started over 40 years ago, and that was at the Planning Commission. Okay, you can have a 3-bedroom apartment with 1.3 cars per apartment. The primary problem we have isn't so much a housing problem. It's a problem, I think Vince said it, is the average income is $53,000. Nobody for the past 40 years has brought in business. There's no Amazon distribution center paying $15 or $20 an hour with health insurance. There's so many things that we can do with the city where people are not kept in indentured servitude by saying, okay, we're going to let you make this much, but we're going to charge you this much for rent, and therefore you're our slaves. I despise that. It's disgusting. We need to bring business into the city so people can afford better housing, and the whole boat will lift together. As long as we keep business out and we don't let people improve themselves, it's going to be a problem. It doesn't matter how many millions we get from the federal government or from the state. It is feeding a terrible item. We need to change the concept of Santa Ana so it can make money, let the residents make money, and let them have the American dream. They can lift themselves up if we just give them leeway. Staying a census city is going to keep us having more people come in around census time. This discussion's happened every election, and quite frankly, I'm tired of it. Thank you.
Thank you, George. We're going to move on now to the last question before we have the lightning round, which will be followed by our closing statements. I'm going to start with Mark on this question, and it's a COVID-related question on city finances. So in the midst of COVID, how do you see the state of the city's finances? What do you see as the city's biggest financial problems moving forward, and what would you do as mayor to alleviate those?
Are you talking about the city's financial problem, sir?
Yes.
Well, as mayor, as you know, it's only a part-time position, so I can only advise on that, research and advise that. The city manager has full responsibility for that, and I'm sure he has a heavy staff there. I can attest to that, but that's decisions based on them, sir. I mean, that kind of question, yes, I can advise and research myself and recommend, but like I said, I'm not a full-time mayor, sir, And that's one of the things I want to bring up. To have situations like that, that's why I recommend that we do become a full-time city, because that's like a question you would ask the full-time mayor and his staff. And that's why I think we need to lead to a full-time mayor in a position like that, where the mayor has overall more say in a management position, so has full-time access to that, as opposed to we're paying the city manager $6 figures to do that all day, sir. That's a question for the general manager. I can only recommend and advise long-term that it's his job. That's what we're paying him or her to do. And I guess I think a lot of the money should be spent. I mean, the money should be funneled down here at the local level. It's like I said, I don't have that as a part-time, as a part-time mayor. I would never have the time for access to that. I could hold a full-time job and do that. That's more of a full-time position. We need to have a full-time. That's why I want to point out that in the future we should change our charter to a full-time mayor and city council member so they can address these huge financial issues instead of being realistically, if you have a full-time job, you do. It's like how you gonna do that's what, like I said, sir. That's the way to pay a city manager and a huge tax-heavy staff to do all that stuff, sir. I think that's a question that doesn't pertain to this. It does pertain to it, but that's my recommendation that we should go do it. I can only recommend and advise. Long-term, that's where we're paying the city manager first. So most people I found out don't realize that the mayor of Santa Ana is only a ceremonial position. The bottom line has with the city manager. He has the staff and he has the recommendations to make all decisions. He does that. But right now, like I said, I think we need to, long-term, my goal is to switch over, or recommend to switch over a full-time mayor and council position. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, for your perspective. Cecilia, can you give us your take again? How do you see the state of the city's finances? What do you see as the city's biggest financial problems moving forward? And what would you do as mayor to alleviate those?
The state of our finances in our city is not great. The biggest problem that we have is the pensions. We have a pension liability, Norberto, of over $600 million, something that we are putting our future generations in debt to pay that. The raises that we allow every year to our employees, not that I'm saying that our employees don't deserve it, but not on the backs of taxpayers. In the past, that's what it's always been. It's always been approve raises, approve raises and approve raises. And by the time we're done, we're in such a liability with the pensions that we won't be able to do this anymore. Measure X was passed by the voters. I believe under a lie, saying that it was going to go into providing services. But what happened with that money? It went into benefits and salaries for all employees. About 50% of it went to that, and two of the candidates here approved that raise, and it was a $25 million raise for our police department. It's something that we couldn't afford and we can't afford. And in about another 5 years, we're going to be faced with the same situation, which is we are going to be going back to the voters and saying, we can't afford this anymore because our pension liability is too high. So as mayor, what I'm going to do is work with the labor unions and work with our city manager to ensure that the employees pay their fair share into their pension costs. Because you do that in private sector, why can't we do it with the public sector? It's not fair that the taxpayers are always burdened into paying this amount of money for the employees. They're already well compensated. I believe it's fair that they should pay at least 50% of the cost of their pension into their pension costs. So that's what I would do.
Thank you, Cecilia. I appreciate your insights. George, what's your take? What's your sense of the city's finances? What do you think is the biggest threat, and what would you do as mayor to alleviate those?
The city finances haven't changed over 30 years. It's constantly hearing, oh, we're good. And a couple of council meetings later, oh my God, we're glad we got through that. We were almost in bankruptcy. This is because we're a beggar city. Sorry for being so blunt. Until we start getting business into Santa Ana and getting business revenue where we don't have to depend on the outside, everything that we've talked about here tonight is based on saying the same, and hopefully we'll get more money from the federal government. The federal government is spending $3 trillion. They aren't going to have any money. If we don't do something to get money into Santa Ana, business into Santa Ana, COVID will kill us. The businesses are dying, they're closed, they're paneled up. Unless we get something where 4th Street, I went down there. I've been to other cities. Why isn't 4th Street closed off so they can put tables in the middle of the street so they can have outside seating? I saw that in Huntington Beach. I saw that in Laguna, where it's absolutely beautiful. In Orange, why can't we close it off and help these businesses instead of keeping our feet on their neck? Santa Ana has to start making money on its own, constantly begging the state or the federal government, We'll be back here in 4 years doing exactly the same conversation with the same question. We don't know if COVID's going to be over in 2 months or in another year. We have to be prepared for the worst, hope for the best, be prepared for the worst. Right now, COVID's got everything closed up, and unless the city manager gets down there and starts allowing these people, closing the streets and opening up, we won't have any of the restaurants left. And that's going to be really, really bad because it takes a year or 2 years to refill those buildings. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Vicente, what's your take on the biggest financial challenge facing the city, and what would you do as mayor to alleviate that?
Yeah, thanks, Norberto. You know, there are multiple issues, I think, but what's been mentioned before is true. There is a structural deficit, and that has to do with our unfunded liability for pensions. I think one of the things that, you know, I've tried to do with other agencies, what I've seen other agencies successfully do is refinance their debt. Right now, the interest rates are extremely low. We can go out to bond and see how we can do well there. I think that there is an opportunity. I saw something forecast for us that there's a possibility that we could get $70 to $100 million worth of savings over time. That's one. The other one is that as a result of COVID, what we're seeing is that many businesses that employ a lot of our residents and provide services are failing. They're not going to be able to make it through this pandemic. It's already been 6 months that they've had to shut down for some of them. And so we need to go out and try to leverage how we can bring back jobs and businesses here and assist them, welcome them. I think right now we have a great opportunity. There's a civic center plan that we've been thinking about and that I've been trying to envision, in that there's space that we hold jointly with the county and with other agencies. How can we revitalize that? How can we bring conference centers there, amenities, hotels, different places for our community to enjoy, but also for investment to be made? Willowwood Golf Course. That's 100 acres there that we can use as open space for our kids, but also wrap it around with amenities that can also generate revenue for both cities. The streetcar is underway. It's going to be another way to attract folks here. Hotels, different things that we can do that we can look at being more creative. Again, we're geographically situated right in the middle of the county around a lot of affluent areas, and we should be taking advantage of our geography a lot better.
Thank you. Jose, what's your sense of the city's finances? What are the biggest threats? And what would you as mayor be able to do to alleviate those?
Thank you. Great question. An ongoing problem that I think we've had is we don't have enough folks spending enough time reading the budget, understanding the budget, discussing it. I know last year when we were working on a lot of these issues, we had some of my colleagues, even some staff, saying the city was going to go in the red up to $6 million. I said, you know, guys, you know, and gals, you know, read all these projections and revenues and other dynamics. And sure enough, we actually finished the year 16 million in the black. There was 10 million that we put back into reserve and about 6 million that we moved forward to for ongoing programs. So I want to encourage more education and dialogue to get people to understand the budget and the services, because I think the budget, that's the single most important document that we have in our city, because it speaks to the values that we have as Santaneros and residents and businesses. So I want to focus on that. And then clearly COVID and the financial impacts of it is going to be real for our city. And every city has challenges with COVID and pensions, all the rest. The question is how we manage them. With my experience at the state level and regional level, I'm comfortable reading a budget, understanding it, making cuts, making reforms. Refinance was spoken about. We got to do that. We got to pay off our jail debt because that's going to save money ongoing. Other reforms across the board, and some reforms can potentially generate revenue. For example, the food trucks are willing to pay for permits to where they are. We could reform business licenses, and we look at our hotel visitors tax because we're not there compared to the others. Thank you.
Thumbs up. Thanks again. Claudia, can you talk to us a little bit about what your sense of the city's finances are, and what are the biggest threats out there, and what would you be able to do as mayor to alleviate those?
Yes, thank you, Norberto. Of course, you know, it wasn't too long ago that I remember reading on the newspaper. I'm going to say maybe 4 years ago that the council at the time was bragging about how we were so in the black and what would we do with all this surplus money. And it was a little frustrating for me because I remember the 2008 recession and all we had to do to get those reserves in place. And then that being said, you know, people out there trying to make sure that their pet projects are paid for. How do we go from then being in the black to where we are today. And I don't think it's just COVID-19 related. Yes, COVID-19 has hit us, absolutely. But there's also been a lot of poor decision making before COVID hit. How many city managers did we go through? How many police chiefs do we go through? How much money is each of those decisions are they costing us? I think we need to look at the decisions that are being made and the reasons why they're being made. I think we need to run the city more efficiently. But I can't believe that COVID-19 is the only thing that's being blamed for the situation that we have here today. We have a $90 million deficit for 2021. And I know that it was filled with reserves, if you will, and unstructured funds are probably one-time funds. That's not going to fix the problem. I think one way to fix the problem is to make sure our small businesses survive. We have over 30,000 small businesses in Santa Ana, and they're holding on for life, if you will. They had to close their doors for 3 months, and then they had to board up their places because of the protests. I think we need to get rid of that red tape, eliminate all the barriers that we have in doing business in Santa Ana. And regarding the pensions, yes, we need to refinance. We have done that for the college district with our bonds. And in fact, we saved our residents $20 million just recently out of the bonds at Rancho Santiago Community College. But you know what? Those working families, those very unions that are getting criticized today, they pay for their pensions. So to the extent that they're getting blamed for the problem, they are absolutely not the problem. I think it's poor decision making, just COVID hit us. But what do we do with our reserves? And I think we need to make it easier for us to get business going back in Santa Ana and get people back to work so they could spend money.
Sorry, a little bit of technical issues seem to be back on. So we're going to do our lightning round for questions. Can everybody hear me okay?
Good to go.
Awesome. Okay, so we'll start now on our lightning round. About a dozen questions, mainly is yes or no, for or against. And we'll just start putting them out there, and just as you kind of hear them, feel free to respond. So we'll start on campaign finance. Quick question is, how much real estate developer financing is behind your campaign? No financing, some financing, or a lot of financing? So 3 possibility answers to that one. We'll start with George.
0.
0. Claudia.
Very little.
Vicente.
Very little as far as I know. I've got a lot of $10 contributions.
Say.
Tom, yes.
Mark.
0, sir.
Cecilia.
You hear that? Oh.
Yes, sir. Thank you again.
None that I know of.
Got it. Immigration. Current state law, such as Just Act, limits what information cities can share with ICE. Would you collaborate more or less with ICE, or as current state allows? And we'll just go back, George.
All we can do as a city as the state allows.
Claudia.
As state allows within the law.
Vicente.
Less, as long as we advocate correctly for it.
Jose.
It's state law, and I work with Senator De Leon in crafting that.
Mark.
Federal law, that supersedes state's law. Hello? Hello?
We heard Jeff.
Hello? Hello?
Norberto. Okay. In the absence of Norberto, okay, here we go.
I'm back.
Were you
Sorry
able to get
about
my
that.
sponsor, Norberto?
I think we went through everybody on that one. I'm going to start with the POA. The next is for the POA.
I haven't gone.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go, Cecilia. You're right. You're the last one on that one.
It's what state allows.
Thank you again. We'll go back now to the POA. Would you accept the support of the Santa Ana Police Officers Association? And we'll just go in reverse order. Cecilia.
Definitely not. And I just want to dispel the myth. I haven't received any money from them. 0.
Mark.
Support them, but not needed.
Jose.
Now, I'm proud to be endorsed by frontline workers. I've been endorsed by the Police Officers
Oh, Jesus.
Association, the Orange County Fire Authority,
It's a yes or no, man. It's a yes or no.
workers, and the National Union of Healthcare Workers. Thank
Jose,
you.
bro, yes or no?
Thank you. Yeah, it's a yes or no, we'll say. Come on.
I answered it.
Vicente.
No.
Who's left? George.
If they accept my proposal for change, yes. Other than that, no.
Claudia.
Yes.
Is there someone on mute, Norberto? Are you with us? Are you having a connection issue? Okay, I believe there is a connection issue.
I'm back.
I've
guys.
this is George. I've dropped about 8 times tonight, completely out and back in.
Okay. Okay, Norberto's back with us. Okay.
Thank you again, and I apologize for my technical difficulties. Let's talk police oversight. Are you in favor of civilian oversight over the police? Jose.
The City Council's the oversight, yes.
Vicente.
Yes.
Mark. Mark, connectivity issue. Celia.
Yes, and I had proposed it when I was on council.
George.
Yes, and we tried to get the city to do it over 10 years ago.
Claudia.
Advisory only.
Mark, are you back? Mark?
He is away at the moment.
Okay, we'll ask him that if he gets back. Let's see here. Taxes. Would you be in favor of changing or repealing Measure X? Cecilia.
Yes, definitely.
Claudia.
Yes.
George.
Absolutely.
Vicente.
Yes, it is subject to review.
Jose.
Reduce the rate.
Mark, are you with?
Mark appears to be back.
Awesome. Mark, civilian oversight over police. Are you in favor?
I believe he's using his phone, so he can't hear us at the moment. Maybe once he gets his phone to his ear, we'll continue with him.
Okay. I'll go on to the next question and come back to him on these last two.
Okay, it looks like okay. I believe Norberto is having another connectivity issue. Okay, so with regard to affordable housing, would you have the affordable housing, the HOO Housing Opportunity Ordinance require more affordable housing units? Yes or no? Vicente?
Yes.
Jose?
We already did affordable housing. We got to now help our residents.
Okay, short answers. Mark? Oh yeah, okay, sorry about that. George?
No.
Claudia?
No.
Ceci?
No.
Do you support the lawsuit from Santa Ana against other OC cities over homelessness? Jose?
We need to work on it some more, but yes.
Mark?
Just answer the question.
Okay, George?
Yes, in review, but yes.
Claudia?
Yes.
Ceci?
Yes.
Vicente?
Yes.
Do you support the Townsend Gang injunction? George?
Yes.
Jose?
Yes.
Vicente?
No.
Ceci?
Yes, but it needs reform.
Claudia?
Yes.
Are you for or against sanctuary city status in Santa Ana? Vicente,
Yes.
Jose,
Yes.
George,
No.
Claudia,
Yes.
Ceci.
Yes.
Do you support the city's Immigrant Legal Defense Fund? Claudia,
Yes.
Ceci,
Yes.
Vicente,
Yes.
Jose,
Yes.
George.
As long as it's taxpayers' money, no.
Mark, did you hear that question?
You hear me? Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. No, I don't support it.
Okay. Would you support a needle exchange program in Santa Ana? Vicente.
No, we've already tried it and it didn't work.
Jose.
I led the effort against it.
Actually, it's Norberto with us. Norberto, let me know if your connection comes back and if you want to take over.
I'm on. Yeah,
Okay.
we can start. We can keep going.
Okay.
Who do we have left to do on this question? Do you want? I'll just take over the next question.
I may have already lost track seeing that you joined.
No problem.
It was
Claudia, did you?
I haven't answered the question. No, I will not support it.
See here.
This is George. I will not support it.
I don't support the needle exchange program.
Has everybody answered on that one?
What was the question?
Do you support needle exchange programs in Santa Ana?
No, sir. Mark Lopez. No, sir.
Got it. Let's move on to the next question. Police budget. Would you support increasing the police budget? Jose?
We need to continue staffing it so that increases over time.
Yes
Yes.
or no?
Yes.
Yes or
Increase.
no? Got it. Vicente?
No.
Mark?
Yes.
Cecilia?
No.
George?
Yes, only for community-oriented assistance change.
Claudia?
Yes.
Would you support, we'll start here with, would you support a hard term limit for the city council and the mayor? And we'll start with Jose.
Yes.
Claudia?
Yes.
George?
Absolutely. We fought for it for years.
Vicente?
Yes, that's why we're here tonight, because I fought for term limits on the mayor's seat.
Mark? Mark?
Yes.
Cecilia?
Term limits, yes.
Let's see here. Would you support the construction of another emergency shelter in Santa Ana for homeless people? Claudia?
No.
George?
Nope.
Cecilia?
When I fought against the Yale shelter.
Mark? Mark?
Say again the question.
Absolutely, no problem. Would you support construction of another emergency shelter in Santa Ana for homeless people?
Yes.
Vicente?
No, it's time for other cities to do their fair share.
Jose?
No, now we need to focus on getting our police department to enforce the anti-camping laws.
Next question. Would you want to expand legal cannabis businesses operating in Santa Ana? Cecilia?
No, we need less.
Vicente?
Yes.
Claudia?
No.
George?
Would I want to? No. May we have to? Yes.
Jose?
They're legal, safe, and doing well. 10 million plus this year for revenue. So yes.
Mark? Mark?
What was the question,
Yeah.
sir?
Yeah, legal,
Yes, sir.
legal cannabis businesses. Would you support
Oh, yeah.
expanding?
Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes. Yes.
Last couple of ones. Would you support a just cause eviction ordinance? George?
Depending on the time frames, yes. And outside of COVID.
Yes or no? It's a yes or no, everybody. Yes or no? Cecilia? Cause evictions, yes or no? An ordinance.
Well, I can't hear you. What was the question?
Would you support a just cause eviction ordinance?
No.
Yes or no? Got it. Mark, would you support a just
Yes.
cause eviction
Yes, sir.
ordinance? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Vicente, would you
Yes.
support a cause?
Yes.
Jose?
No, rent control and proposals like that don't work.
Claudia, did I get you already?
No, you haven't, and I would not support it.
Gotcha. Thank you. I think on this, I've got everybody. Were you in favor of reducing in lieu fees for the housing opportunity ordinance? Claudia, we'll start with you on this.
No.
George?
Actually, I looked at old videos of this today. Yes, we were against it.
Cecilia? Cecilia?
You hear
Can
me?
you hear
No.
us? Yeah, I can hear you now.
No.
And Mark?
Yes.
Vicente?
Norberto, can you rephrase the question? It's kind of a double negative. Can you just say it one more time? I think you were trying to say, were we supportive of the reduction in the in lieu fee for the affordable housing? Is that your question?
It
And
was, were you, okay, good.
Sorry about that. I really
Okay.
apologize here. I don't know why my Wi-Fi is going so bad. Were you in favor of reducing in lieu fees for the opportunity ordinance?
No.
Jose?
I voted yes to increase business and economic activity in that area.
Thank you, Jose. We'll go on to the next question. There's two left. Would you want to see more undocumented residents serving on city commissions? Mark?
Mark, no.
Celia?
I don't think we should be looking at document status. The best candidate.
So it's a yes or a no?
I'll defer not to answer because I believe the best candidate should be put on commissions.
Okay. Vicente, would you support more undocumented residents on city commissions?
Yes, I was the first council member to appoint an undocumented commission.
Jose?
I believe in comprehensive immigration reform, and we need more folks to register as citizens and quality
Yes
of
or no?
candidates,
That's
Yes
a
or
question.
no?
documented or not. Documented or not,
Yes
we need
or
the
no?
best, but we also need more.
All right, on to the next
Lightning.
person. If you start dancing like that, I'm just going to go
Yep.
on to the next person.
Go
ahead.
That's just not fair.
Go ahead.
Let's skip Jose's pandering. It's getting old.
Oh, it's tough. Mark, yes or no? I think you already answered it. Claudia?
Yes.
Next one, last question. Would you support the Community Emergency Response Training Program? George?
I'm sorry, would you repeat it again? You're breaking up just a little bit.
Happy to. Would you support the Community Emergency Response Training Program? Yes or it's a yes or no question.
Absolutely, I'm part of certain. I'm a trainer. Absolutely.
Cecilia?
Yes.
Mark?
Former member, yes.
Vicente?
Yes.
Claudia?
Yes.
Jose?
Yes.
And we'll go to a couple of ballot propositions. What is your position on California Proposition 15, a tax on commercial industrial properties, educate local government funding initiative? Vicente?
Yes.
Jose?
Terrible time to increase new taxes.
I'll take that as a no. Mark?
No.
Cecilia?
No.
George?
No, with the flight of people and businesses leaving California, absolutely no.
Claudia?
No.
Okay, on to the next one. Proposition 17, voting rights restoration for persons on parole amendment. It's a yes or no whether you support it. Claudia,
Which proposition is this?
17. It looks like it says the title of it is Voting Rights Restoration for Persons on Parole.
No.
George,
Nope.
Cecilia,
No.
Mark,
No. No.
Vicente, got it.
Yes.
And Jose,
I haven't read that one. Don't have a position.
no problem. Last one I have here is California Proposition 22, app-based drivers as contractors and labor policies initiative. Yes or no? Proposition 22. Jose, any position?
You know, I got to read that one in detail. It's complicated.
No problem. Vicente,
Can you repeat that, just the description of it? Because I think it.
sure. All I have is the title, app-based drivers as contractors and labor policies initiative.
Yes.
Mark? Cecilia?
No.
George?
No.
Claudia?
No.
Okay. Okay, everybody, that takes us through our lightning round. We're going to move now into closing statements, 2.5 minutes per person. Let's start with Claudia.
Give me 2 seconds.
Mhm.
Well, thank you everyone for listening to all of us. Thank you everyone for running for mayor. It's exciting. We're going to have a brand new mayor in the near future. And I tell you, I raised my hand to run for mayor back in October of 2019. And the city was already in bad shape then. And this is before COVID-19. And this is before all the issues that were brought up to the forefront with George Floyd protest. Crime was already up. When I left the city, I told you earlier, we were the fourth safest city our size, and now we're scrambling to get under 100. And I'll tell you, some of the candidates running against me, it's ironic that one of them in particular says public safety is my number one priority. Well, that same candidate actually voted for AB 109 when he was on the assembly. For those of you that don't know, AB 109 opened up the floodgates for inmates from prison to be brought to Orange County to fill our jails, and that forced us to release other inmates into our community. It was the gateway to the problem we have today in the criminal justice system. When it relates to other council members that are running for mayor now, they started defunding the police before it was trendy. I left the council, and one of the first things that council did after I left was walk out Paul Walters, who was one of our finest chiefs, who believed in community policing and who got great awards for the work that he did with City Hall and for our city, if you will. And after he left, they started defunding the police. There's articles out there that talk about what happened in Santa Ana. Crime went up. So I tell you, if you're interested about public safety and you want to protect our residents, some of the choices you have before you are not choices and are not supportive of public safety. I am. There was also a lot of, and I already made reference to, things that happened since I left City Hall. The city was in way better shape, not only because of the public safety issue, but also because of everything that happened after I left. How many city managers did we go through? How many police chiefs did we go through? How many other staff members were in fear and not being able to do their job because of the threat of getting fired? That actually has to be addressed. And then we had what we talked about earlier, special interest playing. But I don't think it's a special interest fault. It's the council members that lend themselves to involved like that. I am not what I'm paid for. And some of the people not running for office are. And you will see that trend, and you have seen it since I left. Also, council members gave themselves a 700% raise after I left. And we have that outrageous tax measure X passed. We get taxed at 9.25% in Santa Ana. We're the most expensive city in the county with very little to show for it. I think Santa Ana has a great opportunity for brand new leadership.
Thank you, Claudia. Your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mark. Mark, can you hear us? Mark? Mark? Mark, can you start your closing statements? Let me move on and I'll go back to you, Mark. George, are you ready to go?
Yeah, we can do this.
Okay.
Everyone, I want to thank you for being here tonight and listening to the same thing that we heard. I heard a lot of people say essentially what's been said for the past 30 years. We'll keep going the way we're going, and hopefully we'll be able to borrow or beg our way out of it. I think it's time, and as it was described the other day, this is a sweet moment in time where we can change the direction of Santa Ana. Do we want it to be as it's been for the past 30 years and continue, or do we want to change it to a city that people will want to come to? Years ago, when I ran for office, I made a statement at the forum, and I said, why don't we put some lights in downtown and brighten it up and make it safe? And I couldn't finish talking. There was so much applause. I've been driving around the town and looking at stuff and going to other towns and comparing. They do marketing. They do marketing to bring people to their town. They don't put up downtown OC on the water tower. You put up something, maybe the Chichen Itza. It's a really good book. Okay. A lot of the Mexican population has Mayan influence in it. Why don't we have instead of a little Saigon or a little Chinatown, why don't we have the city of the gods, Chichen Itza? Why don't we have a marketing plan, a tourist plan? Everything we've talked about and everything that we've been doing is same old, same old. Look at what I did. Look at what I didn't do. Oh, it's bad with them. It's bad for this. We need to get away from that, have a brighter future. Everybody's going to have to pull together. We have to get through COVID without question. Okay. But if we pull together, we work with the restaurants, we can create a theme, we can create a restaurant area that's little, whatever we want to call it, whatever the society wants, and start bringing people into town and spending money. Without spending money, there's not much we can do. The federal government's not going to be giving anything. From what I understand from being a sanctuary city, the grants have dried up because of the sanctuary city status. So I'm understanding that the next couple of years are going to be really tight. We have to do something for the business, and we have to get the business community doing something with us. Yes, actually, yes, thank you. Years ago, I proposed something called Santa Ana's Got Talent, opening up with Downtown Inc., a little show to get the students coming in and putting a show on television. That would bring students in, they can show their talent, they can do what they need to do, and we could do it. It got shut down by the council at the time. So it's the best we can do is try our best. Thank you very much. I would appreciate your support.
Thank you, George. Mark, are you with us?
He's
Mark?
left the building.
Oh, okay. Let's move on to Vicente.
Yes, thank you, Norberto, and thank all of you for allowing us the time to be able to address you and the residents and the voters. I also want to thank the other candidates that are running for office. You know, I think this is a difficult process and it's difficult on everybody. I respect everybody's willingness to improve the community that we love. For me, it's been, you know, my hometown. I grew up here. We have deep roots here, and you know, I am very honored to be running with the support of our service employees that staff our parks, our community centers, and have been helping raise our children and create a safe environment for us. You know, I've never run for another office. I've only run for city council 3 times. I've run successfully with your support. This could be my swan song, so I do want to say thank you for the trust that you've instilled in me to be your steward and to help shepherd you through some very difficult times like the recession in 2008. I think it is going to take somebody who is going to have the capacity, who is going to be able to balance the interests, but more importantly, somebody who's going to be neutral and objective and understand that we have to make some difficult decisions, and we're not going to be, burdened by having to, defer to some other special interest that's controlling us. You know, I'm not going to receive the Police Officers Association endorsement. I'm not a prosecutor and I'm not a Trump supporter. So I am a very distinct contrast to what's out there. With all due respect to everybody, I respect everybody's position. I just, don't happen to espouse to those. My issues, have to deal with improving the housing condition for our people who are having very difficult conditions, helping reduce homelessness, improving the public health in our community because we do have a lot of serious public health issues, investing in our youth and creating safe neighborhoods. What I've been inspired by is that we have a lot of youth that come to our, that have been online and calling to our council meetings. And to me, that's what we've been trying to inspire. And whether or not any of us get the position to lead the city, I know it's in good hands because we have a lot of inspired youth that are going to be demanding of us certain expectations that they have. They don't want to see the same business as usual. I think, to do the same thing and expect different results is really the definition of craziness. And I think that they all see that. So I do feel very hopeful. I'm inspired by what I hear from our youth, and I'm very thankful that they're participating, and we should be welcoming their engagement. So with that, I'll bid everybody a good night. If you want to hear more from my campaign, it's sarmientoformayor.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicente. Jose?
Thank you, Norberto. Fabulous job moderating one more candidates panel. Thank you to the residents of Santa Ana and the voters, and also Connect to Council for bringing us together, even though it's in a virtual way. I'm optimistic about the future of Santa Ana. I know the challenges are great, but I know that this is a city of opportunity. This is a city of very resilient people. Many folks from Michoacan and all parts of the world that come here for hard work and opportunity. And I'm here for those residents as we move forward through these challenges, because they are great, whether they're financial or public health in nature. So I ask you, just the way you would have a challenging thing at work in your home, if you need to find the best attorney or the best doctor, you go look at the credentials, you look at who has results, you look at who's moved up and done big things and big solutions. I think if you go to my website, josesolorio.com, you can see an updated resume there with what I've done and my priorities. And I think my priorities match with what the city residents need. And then finally, as we continue to get through COVID, I ask everyone to look at their mail and see the information that residents are getting from the city, from the city council. We have good amounts of rental assistance, utility assistance, senior programs, food programs. The program that we created is called Santa Ana Cares. The website is santa-ana.org/cares. There's also a phone number, 667-2273. Please take a look, share with those residents that may have hardships. Many of our residents do have hardships. We'll get out of this together. I'm looking forward to a new day in Santa Ana. As you mentioned, Norberto, we haven't had a new mayor in over 25 years. And I'm excited about what that means for our citizens and for the future of this great city of ours. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jose. Cecilia?
Okay, sorry about that. Well, thank you, Norberto, again for moderating this forum, and thank you to Connect to Council and everyone that's listening and tuning in to hear from us what we will do for our city. As I stated, I've lived in Santa Ana since 1979. I've lived in my neighborhood here in Windsor Village since 1990. I am very passionate about what happens within our community. I've been involved with the community, regardless if I was elected or not. I think it's something that I've been very vocal about, protecting our taxpayers, protecting our residents. And I'm the one that have always been out there sharing with you all what's the state of our city. I know one thing that all of the candidates here didn't address, except for myself, is what's really happening at City Hall. So one thing I would ask for all of you guys is to know who you're voting for. Make sure that when you receive information in the mail, don't believe everything that you see, because those are just playing politics, and it's all these special interests that are going to be weighing in millions of dollars into this race, and we need to stop that. And I know that the residents are tired of it, because they have told me, and it's something that I'm going to fight against. It's something that we need to really ensure that we don't have special interests. So as you know, the opportunities for Santa Ana have never been greater, but the risk of financial collapse and medical crisis is equally great. As your next mayor, I can give Santa Ana a great future and protect it against bad outcomes. We must change the culture of corruption at City Hall. City council members beholden to the greedy police union boss, Jerry Serrano, must be held accountable. Those relationships result in questionable and unethical decisions and have no place at City Hall. As a twice elected Santa Ana school board member and once elected councilwoman, I have the experience to make the changes necessary to begin a new chapter in Santa Ana. As your mayor, I will move Santa Ana forward. I'm going to focus on unity, protect taxpayers from new taxes and new bonds. We prioritize our budget to improve safety, quality of life for residents and businesses, beautify neighborhoods and parks to benefit families, youth, and seniors. Also protect Prop 13. Hold other cities and County of Orange accountable for the homeless burden in our city. I will work with all residents, schools, churches, nonprofits, and businesses to make Santa Ana vibrant again. I will fight against nuisance fees. Residents pay enough taxes. The city bureaucrats must live within their means, just like we do in our homes. They must live within their means at City Hall. So for a positive change this November, vote Cecilia Ceci Iglesias for mayor. You may contact me at iglesiasformayor@gmail.com or at voteiglesias.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Ceci. And thanks again for all of you for participating. Let's see here. Can you see me here? That's everybody's has been through. Much appreciate everybody participating. Appreciate all of the candidates for putting themselves out there. Election and governing is not an easy thing. So we appreciate everybody that steps up to it. Really want to shout out and appreciate all of the volunteers that worked on Connect Council. Every year they do a great job of putting on these kinds of debates, and it's really a unique way that free people can keep their elected officials accountable. So just a huge thanks to everybody involved at Connect to Council. Again, I'm Norberto Santana Jr. I'm with Voice of OC, your nonprofit newsroom. We're here for you. In the meantime, make sure to check out the Connect to Council page on Facebook. You can also check out the Voice of OC Facebook page. And again, stay engaged, register to vote, stay active out there, and we'll see you soon.